Hi, everybody. We are, geez, 27 days? I don't know. Let me look. Everything is, it's going so fast and we're getting viral. We're going viral. Um, just, I can't tell you how many people are contacting us. And it was busy before, and now it's even, just, I can't tell you. Let's see. Yep, 1,726 days. So, and I'm sorry that I'm coming on so late. Here we are burning the midnight oil, but it just can't be helped because we're in communication just about daily with the Trump administration. We're in communication. And this is really, really important. And so many things are happening because of the Walmart mass shooting case ending, right? And I would say it's very important to first introduce Richard 1,726 days ago, that he was forcibly removed from the barracks there at Fort Bliss, and his life was taken on Fort Bliss in the line of duty. And this has been confirmed by the Department of Defense 4 days after President Trump took his oath of office the second time. We did get the declaration of death on April 24th, 2024, but the declaration of in the line of duty right there on Fort Bliss came 4 days after Trump, January 20th. So January 24th, 2025, we received that. That is huge because the mountains of evidence is overwhelming. It's so overwhelming that, and most of you know that we still have not received our son's remains, even though there's clear evidence that remains were found, that remains were autopsied, clear evidence of all of them, a lot of evidence of witness statements and all of that. Just like they, want to deny that Dallas Hart was Richard's platoon leader, but we have clear evidence um, that corroborates that, and years, um, and so it's all documented and recorded, and we've turned it in. And so, we have Nadal Baim, we have Jonathan Ambrose, we have, there's just so much evidence. And if you go to the Facebook, you'll see uh, so much of that. And we have started a website called richardhalliday.com that you can go to, and we will be updating that regularly. Matter of fact, that might be our daily stop, but we wanted to start that so that um, people would have a place to go that wasn't shadow banned, right? That wasn't shadow banned, that was the truth, because we have been absolutely identifying, documenting, filing, and corroborating, fact checking everything to get uh, to the truth about what happened to our son. And that means that we had to get to the truth of the Walmart mass shooting, because the Walmart mass shooting what is intertwined with our son's case. So in order to understand our son's case, we had to understand the Walmart mass shooting case. And as you know, a false narrative has been given to the public about the case. Um, and it ended today. Um, that case, because it's very important for everyone to understand that Attorney General Ken Paxton can take that case over. He can take that case over. And, if, and there's so much wrong with that case, starting with Penny Hamilton. Penny Hamilton, who allegedly magistrated Patrick Crucius at the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, is not even she's just an imposter. She was just an imposter, y'all. She's just an imposter collecting money, though. She's a con artist. She's an absolute con artist. She had no authority. She was not elected. The Texas Constitution requires that if you are a judge with the criminal law magistrate court in El Paso that has full jurisdiction since 2015, you must be elected. You must be elected. She was never elected, so she has no authority. She's just a con artist, and we have to obey the law. We have to go. Our laws are there for us to follow. And just like before you take the oath of office as a district attorney, or in the criminal judicial system, most very important placements like a district attorney, you must sign an anti-bribe promise to the people that you have not taken a bribe before you take your oath of office. That's the law. And so, of course, Bill Hicks didn't do that. He was never a district attorney, he never had the authority. He always knew that. And so, he tried to tamper to undo it, but the deed was done, and you can't undo not signing the anti bribe promise to the people before you take your oath of office. When you've taken your oath of office, you can't really undo that. Yeah, it's a real mess to try to undo it. And then James Montoya did it, and he tampered with documents with that 2028 stamp to try to undo it or whatever, and he went into the future. Um, you know, this is not Back to the Future, as someone said. So, it's just they tampered, so they're not legitimate DAs, and they know this. It's like when you know something, that it really hinders everything that you do, right? Because you're living a lie. They were absolutely living a lie. James Montoya is living a lie. And I think that had a big effect on how he handled the Patrick Crucius case, because his whole history is to go to trial. He didn't go to trial. He should have taken this case to trial. He should have tried to get the death penalty like he promised. I don't think he would have gotten it, but he needed to try to do it because he promised that. But because he is not legitimate, because he's living a lie, I think it really hindered this whole process. And then we had a backroom signing of a plea deal, a backroom plea deal that Patrick Crucius had to sign behind the scenes. If he signed it, did he sign it, Pat C? I mean, we know his handwriting now because of the very, very speedy. Oh man, it was so speedy to get that open checkbook application for appointed counsel on the August 4th, hours after the shooting at 5:42 a.m. on a Sunday morning. They got that in real quick because that was their door to milk. That was their door to the the creamery, right? To milk the American taxpayers for millions and millions of dollars, and hurting other cases because of taking for themselves under the guise of, Patrick Crusius, and leaving the other cases with, little to nothing. So it's very, very criminal. And Patrick Crusius, right from the very beginning, it was a con artist, a person living a lie. Penny Hamilton lives a lie, and people um, are are taking her orders as real. The seal on the case. What about the seal on Richard's evidence and case and everything? Um, so everything has been um, like this shadow government or something, or when you think about the Mayellas being in the shadow, in the federal courthouse being the family of Patrick Crusius, being in the DA's office with Jaime Esparza, with James Montoya working on this case, and Patrick Crusius's family being in the FBI El Paso field office, and Patrick Crusius' family being at the Walmart cybersecurity, right? Cybersecurity for Walmart. So Patrick Crusius's family is everywhere. Were they in UTEP? Were they in UTEP? I mean, it seems like they're everywhere. And in El Paso. So this was not a random place that Patrick Crusius came from. Um, he absolutely knew it very well because his family is here. His brother, with Alexis Mayella, getting married and all of that. But his brother-in-law then, being, this cybersecurity technician and trained hacker. Um, yeah, it's this has all been a lie told to us, and Joe Spencer demanding the open checkbook. I don't know when he demanded that open checkbook. I'm thinking it had to have been before 5:42 a.m. on a Sunday morning on August 4th. That means they were planning this. They were conspiring together for this open checkbook, for this key to the creamery to milk the American taxpayer for millions and millions of dollars, right? And so, it's just been just unbelievable, jaw-dropping, loco, however you want to say, crazy insanity. This circus of a court under Sam Medrano has been, because he gave up the case to the federal. He had prime uh, jurisdiction. Yvonne Rosales had original jurisdiction, and they didn't even tell her. They just made a backroom deal when they wanted to hand it over. And here she wanted to go to trial, but they handed the case over to the federal courthouse, where Michael Mayella was a court manager, the courthouse manager. Um, without even telling Yvonne Rosales that they were doing it. They went into a backroom deal, and then it was just delay, 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 and just milk away, milk, milk, milk. They were very busy behind the scenes. I don't know if they went to Las Vegas. I don't know if they went, uh, where they were having their good times, um, you know, with this money they were milking. I don't know. But we might find out. We might find out because they have to tell us where they spent the money, right? They have to tell us where they spent the money. But, um, eh, you know, now they want like forgiveness or something. Here they're talking death penalty, death penalty, death penalty. And today, Sam Medrano broke every kind of courtroom ethical standard, um, safety standard, um, uh, caring for all the people, not just one person, by allowing this hug. This hug of Patrick Crusius today, if you haven't heard, Judge Sam Medrano allowed a hug from one of the victims to hug Patrick Crusius in his jail jumpsuit with chains and the bulletproof vest. And yeah, he allowed that in the courtroom, which is such a breach of security. It's such a breach of courtroom uh, ethics. Is that the right way to say it? Protocol, the process. It's such a breach of consideration for all the other victims, because just think of just hearing about it caused me to uh, have just, you know, just jaw drop. It's just, you have to suffer through that, suffer through the impropriety um, of that. It was just so inappropriate. You're talking about someone that you just plea dealed for killing multiple people. They won't tell us how many. It's one capital murder of multiple individuals. Well, how many? How many did Patrick Crusius kill? We want to read the plea deal, right? We want to read what they charged him for, what they sentenced him for. So, and you have all these victims in there, and they have to watch him being hugged. I mean, talk about impropriety. It is just absolutely crazy. And the danger of it, because don't forget that one of the victim's family's members attempted, I think I'm saying this right, but one person tried to come into the courtroom with a gun. Um, they were, hate-filled. I don't know, wanting to get justice themselves because they were so sick and tired of all the delays. I don't know, but there was a real risk. And so today, allowing that kind of risk, knowing that he already had that in his courtroom. And what about to Patrick? Maybe she had something, right? So, or Patrick is supposed to be, very, very dangerous. Why would you ever let anyone get near him if you believed the narrative? And we know the narrative is false, right? But maybe he knows Patrick Crusius. Maybe because, I'm sure he knows Michael Mayella. I'm sure he knows Lorraine Mayella. I'm sure, when you have Steve Spitzer that was prosecuting, uh, going to church and having a personal relationship with the family of Patrick Crusius, the Mayelas, um, and it seems like they were pretty cozy, right? Something is, the truth is not out there. The truth is not out there. And so I was just wondering why he allowed this. And you can say, okay, maybe because he knows accountability is coming to him. Maybe he wants to soften or teach the community to have some mercy on him for his criminal activity in this case, with Joe Spencer and his criminal activity in this case, and um, uh, Valenzuela and his and Mark Stevens and his criminal activity, and Bill Hicks his criminal activity, and all of this. Uh, you know, maybe they're just trying to form a narrative of forgiveness now, of hugs and forgiveness. Like, oh, we didn't do our job and we made a whole circus out of this whole thing, and we milked you for millions of dollars. We milked you for millions of dollars. And so maybe you just need to hug us now, right? You can just forgive us. You need to hug us. And I think with this whole death of Pope Francis, and what they're looking for with the new Pope, and of course, the conclave of cardinals is absolutely looking to their flock. They're looking for their flock for guidance and how to choose this new pope, right? And what do they want? Someone that will allow crime to go unpunished, go light-handed on mass shootings, light-handed on criminal trafficking, where hundreds of thousands of children end up mostly dead. Is that, what are they looking for, right? Or do they want justice? Do they want peace? Do they want a future? Do they want a just future? And you know, they look at peace, they look at healing, like, it can just be swept away with some time or whatever. But that's not how healing works. That's not how peace works. That's not how justice works. And we just learned that at Easter, didn't we? There's no forgiveness without restitution. There's no forgiveness without redemption. And a price needs to be paid. And of course, Easter was the greatest. Um, uh, the crucifixion was the greatest price paid, the being betrayed um, into the hands of men, into the heart of the earth, uh, into the hands of sinners, um, beaten, scourged, hung on a cross, pierced in the side. Um, that was a huge price to pay for an innocent man, but for our sins, right? For our sins, and but it had to be paid. It's not like, okay, we can hug and there you go. There you go. I don't have to go through the payment of fighting death and conquering death and rising again with the bursting of a tomb. I don't have to do that, right? That's wrong. That's wrong. So forgiveness, when someone does you wrong, you can't forgive them by just saying, "Oh, I forgive you," and be healed and have peace. You always are tormented, right? The peace and the healing comes from restitution. It comes from, I explained it to our children. I explained it to Richard. If someone steals $100 out of your wallet, um, and then comes up to you and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry I stole $100 from you. Please forgive me." And you're not, you can say, "Okay, I forgive you, I guess," but you're always bitter. You don't have peace. You don't. That's not forgiveness. You never really fully forgive them for being a thief, right? But if they come up to you and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I I don't know what came over me. I stole $100 from you when you weren't looking. I went into your wallet. I stole $100, and I just feel so bad. Here's your $100 back, and here's $100 more, right? So now you have $200 in your hands, right? You have your $100 back, and you have $100 of restitution. You have $100 of restitution. Just getting your money back is not restitution. It's setting it right. But the extra $100 the pain for the other person, the giving of the other person, paying the price. He had to pay a price for stealing the money. Now you have $200 in your hand and you look at your friend with respect, with peace, with forgiveness. There is no forgiveness without restitution. And that's why we look on the cross and we have peace and we have forgiveness. And so, when crimes are not paid for and it's just lie after lie after lie, like in the Walmart mass shooting, like in Richard's case, we were so lied to, and we were lied to not entirely by the murderers of Richard, but by those that were supposed to protect him. Just like in the Walmart case. Joe Spencer was supposed to defend Patrick Crusius. And all he did was live a lie, be a con artist, brag about it. That's why we have the recordings of him bragging that Patrick Crusius wasn't a racist, wasn't a white supremacist, that he wasn't right in his head, that he failed kindergarten, that he couldn't speak until he was about 6 years old, that he couldn't even get through special education classes without having to be separated from the rest of the special needs individuals because he would get frustrated and start hitting himself. That he demanded an open checkbook, not nickels and dimes if he was going to take the case, but an open checkbook. That he made a backroom deal with Sam Medrano to give over the jurisdiction of the case to the federal Judge David Guadarrama. That he was, that Patrick Crusius was targeted by a lot of white supremacist gangs. That he surrendered 2 times. That Jaime Esparza's sister was in the Walmart shooting and that they, allowed him to stay on the case for almost 2 years with that conflict of interest when Jaime Esparza's sister called her from the Walmart and that he went there and that before the crime scene was secured, that he walked that crime scene, that he tampered with the crime scene. And that he was allowed to stay on the case even though it was quote unquote personal to him. And that they allowed that. That's the truth, y'all. I mean, he's caught on audio. That's not me saying that. That is Joe Spencer on audio that we have filed. That we have filed with the media, that it's crickets. Crickets. We gave the media those transcripts, and it's crickets. If you're furious about the Patrick Crusius case, you have every right to be. Because we gave all the law enforcement people, the criminal justice system, we gave them all of that hard evidence. Hard evidence. We gave them the hard evidence that people are being conned day in and day out in El Paso by this criminal law magistrate court, by con artists that are posing as judges, but they are not legally judges. And it's crickets. It's crickets. The criminal justice system in El Paso is so broken, and it is crickets by the media, crickets by the law enforcers, by the criminal judicial system, that we pay them to do their jobs. They are supposed to bring us restitution. They're supposed to bring us justice. They're supposed to do their jobs. And they're just con artists or silent. Silent because there's this cartel element, a huge cartel element. And I'm telling you, I've told you from the very beginning, when we got to El Paso, people were shaking in their boots. They were literally shaking. Their shoulders, their hands, their faces would be contorted. I am on live stream. I am on these podcasts telling people their faces would get contorted because they were shaking. They were so nervous. You know why? Because we have a cartel tied criminal trafficking element in El Paso on Fort Bliss. And you want to name names? What the heck is Mayela Crucius? What is going on with Sam Medrano and Joe Spencer and Jaime Esparza and their conspiracy? And Bill Hicks and his known cartel ties in his DA's office. What is going on with Representative Veronica Escobar and her known cartel ties in the criminal medical chief medical examiner's office? And what's going on with Lieutenant General Sean treasonous traitor Bernabe, with known cartel ties in breaching our military base, Fort Bliss, breaching the security of our Fort Bliss, where we have weapons, where we have ammos, where we have missiles, where we have, he allowed the breaching of that entire post. He's such a traitor. He's so treasonous. There's no question about it. It's just the truth because the evidence confirms it. And instead of having Richard's back, who was whistleblowing on these cartel-tied criminal trafficking embedded individuals network, even in the VA, with access to our war fighters' most sensitive files. The breaches of security is so bad. And instead of him doing his duty as he swears to do, but you see, there's a breach in the oath there in the DA's office. There's a breach in the oath in the criminal law magistrate court. And there's a breach in the oath of our military generals, our leadership. They're breaching their oath, and there's no forgiveness until there's restitution. They must be held accountable for us to have a just future, for us to have accountability in Richard's case, accountability, real accountability for the Walmart mass shooting, real accountability for the criminal trafficking that trafficked 10,000 children at a time, hundreds of thousands of children that are now mostly dead. The trafficking, the theft, the open theft of weapons and ammunition and equipment and everything, and the substance deaths that did not need to happen. But because there were breaches in security and failed leadership that's tied to cartel criminal trafficking network within our military, within our criminal justice system, and our narco politicians. And so this is a moral breakdown because they don't understand justice, or they don't value justice. They don't value their oaths. They value their own personal gain. It's that selfishness that has been pumped into the media to hypnotize everybody that, oh, first you need to take care of yourself. Oh, first you need to, you deserve it. You deserve it. You need to have it. You. This whole selfishness thing that has convinced people that they can breach their oath, break their oath, don't do their duty, and then all of this pain and death is a result. Over and above your own personal will and needs and wants is your oath and your duty. And that's when we have accountability. That's when we have a future. That's when we have a true justice and real peace and real forgiveness. What they did with Richard, what they did with the victims in the Walmart shooting, what they did with the breaches of ethics in the El Paso Community Foundation, handling and distribution falsely, the theft, the fraud in the Walmart victims funds. It is just the rotten fruit of all of this moral depravity. And that's why people are looking to this conclave in the Roman Catholic Church now, to these cardinals that will hold this conclave. And Europe holds the most votes for the new pope. But they're looking for the pope because they know with Pope Francis that they need now a moral compass. They need a moral compass. And that moral compass comes from Christian values, a healthy fear of God, the understanding and the love of the 10 Commandments and selfless service and understanding that sometimes you mess up and you have to pay restitution in order to get forgiveness, true forgiveness. Because even for the person that messed up, you see, going back to the person that was overcome with greed for a minute and went and got the $100 and then thought, what the heck am I doing? And to go back and to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Here's your $100 back, and here's 100 more for what I did. This is my restitution. And he got forgiveness, and he could go back home and he could sleep well and say, phew, boy, I'm okay. I've got forgiveness. That was the best $100 I ever spent. But no, because we've turned away from that peace, and want somebody to kill people and not pay restitution, or to con people of millions of dollars. What Joe Spencer took, and Sam Medrano, and Jaime Esparza, and Bill Hicks, and James Montoya, and whoever took this money, they need to pay restitution because they failed. They failed, and they gave us a con job. They gave us lies. These are acts of crime. And there is witness tampering and whistleblower retaliation. And in Richard's case, the whistleblower retaliation ended up in his murder. It went so far because it didn't just start with his murder. They retaliated against him. And there's a very clear video of Glennon Oakley Jr. on August 4th. So August 3rd, he's saving children. He's all, oh, wow, very humble. He was very humble, a hero, but happy to do it because he was packing and he heard gunshots in the mall and he saw guys in black, like mall cops with M4s in the mall. And he wanted to help those kids because he heard gunshots in the mall. And they were all running around crazy. And the next day, for saying the truth, what he saw, what he heard, what he did on CNN with Wolf Blitzer, the attack dogs came out after him. Because that was not the narrative that the conspirators, that the operation wanted to have. And the next day you could see it. He had been visibly bullied and put into fear, threatened, intimidated, you name it. You saw it. He was crying. Here is a soldier, a hero soldier, crying because he was being tormented by these attack dogs. And let me tell you, we understand it because they've come after us too for months and months. But thank God we're not 19 years old. We're not 21 years old. These attack dogs, we just said, "Get behind me, Satan." Where's Richard? I don't care what you have to say. Where's my son? But for Glennon Oakley Jr., it was brutal. For Richard, it was brutal. They went after him, and then they abused their power. This is military officers abusing their power and using the UCMJ. This is Sean Bernabe in our meetings being led by the JAG UCMJ, trying to intimidate us about how they had intimidated Richard, how they had threatened Richard. And we were like, are you insane? Where's Richard? These are the worst type of people that have been allowed to wear our beautiful uniforms with our beautiful stars and then weaponize their authority, weaponize the tools that we give them, weaponize the position that we give them against our young whistleblowers, our young heroes. And Richard wound up being murdered in the line of duty on Fort Bliss, not in Iraq, not in Albania, not in Syria, not in you name it, right there on home turf, right there in a supposedly secured military environment with ongoing criminal cartel tied trafficking and a leadership that is compromised and protecting the cartel tied criminals. And not only that, but targeting the commander in chief, President Trump, at the time, with mutiny. With mutiny. And that's the truth. And I think this whole thing in El Paso is kind of like a mutiny. I it's not like mutiny in the military because clearly we have a commander in chief. Clearly he is over the military. But the DA, they work for us. They work for the people of El Paso. And because Richard is a constituent, that's why I say they work for us, because we are Richard. Our family is Richard. And the DA, there's no legitimate DA right now active. You got one legitimate DA. Her name's Yvonne Rosales. But where is she? She's AWOL. She doesn't honor her oath because the culture is not to honor your oath. And that's why this pope is so important. And I hope the new pope that we demand. Now, I'm not Roman Catholic. Oh, close, close. Anglican, very close. I'm Catholic. I'm just not Roman Catholic. But if I was an Anglican, I'd probably be Roman Catholic. To be honest with you, that's where we would go. That's why this pope is so, I'm just paying attention so much. And I hope that the Roman Catholics demand from their cardinals somebody that will honor oaths, somebody that fears God, that wants the rule of law, meaning every word that proceedeth from the mouth of God is law word. Getting back to thy will be done, not my will be done. Oh Lord. That's what I'm praying for. Because the display today in the courthouse was the opposite of that. Putting a victim in more danger by allowing her to have physical contact with Patrick Crucius and vice versa, and breaching courtroom protocol and antagonizing all the other victims that had to watch that. Can you imagine how they felt? And the public, to know that justice was not served, that Judge Sam Medrano continues to fail. He needs to be disbarred for what he has done in that court. He needs to be disbarred, and so does Sam Medrano. Joe Spencer, Sam Medrano, Joe Spencer, Felix Valenzuela, Mark Stevens, Bill Hicks, Montoya. Montoya is living a lie. He is telling the public there that he is a DA, and he's not. Legally, he's not. It is totally messing with him. And Judge Guadarrama knows it true, because he's the one that we did an open records to say, hey, can you give us uh, James Montoya's statement of officer that you should have requested before you gave him the oath of office? Because you gave him the oath of office twice. When did he give you the statement of officer? It's been crickets. That means Montoya, well, we have the documents that we got from other FOIAs, but we had to work hard to get all that together, to be able to tell the public what Judge Guadarrama knew to be true, what James Montoya knew to be true, what the Secretary of State of Texas knew to be true, that James Montoya is not the DA because he did not install properly. Let me read some of this. I know I'm a little bit. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on, for your prayers and your love. And thank you, Olga, for coming on. Everyone calls that specific Walmart the Cella Vista Walmart. It's very possible some shooters misunderstood Cella Vista Walmart to Cella Vista Mall, then later tried to cover it up. Well, the problem with Glendon Oakley Jr. is he was at like a store like a Foot Locker, right? He heard the shots at the Dillard. They were all running to Dillard's, and there was, he named the stores, the Cella Vista Mall stores, right? Where the shots were being fired. And he's not the only one that heard them. And the point being is that there should have been a trial where we could hear what the witnesses had to say. And he was one of the witnesses, and the military should have protected him. But no, they sent their attack dogs. They intimidated him. They bullied him. He went home to Bell County, which I lived in Bell County, so I know. I lived in Temple, Texas. I lived in Killeen. He went back to Harker Heights. I believe it was Harker Heights, his family. Um, and he went there because of, I'm telling you, we experienced it. They go after you. And if you've made any little mistake in your life, and thank you, God, that we have very good records, 100% records. But let's say you had any kind of little foible in your life. They were accessing our records. They were accessing Rob's military 30 he retired in 2006. They were accessing when he first got in the military. They were going through everything trying to find something. And they were going through the adoption records, everything, and twisting things and saying the most vile and vulgar. They had access, you see. They had access to our files. So if Glennon Oakley had any little foible in his life, they would absolutely harass him about that. Absolutely. And they would use racist remarks and any kind of derogatory remark just to harass you, just to intimidate you. And they would always lace it with their sex cult, vile, vulgar language. And it's so nasty. When you see him on the 4th, the video's still available. When you see Glennon Oakley Jr. on the 4th, he's barely holding it together. In a matter of hours, they came after him. If you watch the August 3rd CNN video where he's like amazing. He's so humble. He's so beautiful. And he's telling what he saw. He needed to be protected, but he wasn't. And on April 8th, 2020, was found dead in his Fort Bliss barracks room. April 8th, he was found dead in his Fort Bliss barracks room. And in July, Richard was murdered. After they used because they used UCMJ on Glennon Oakley too. Notice he was an E4, and all of a sudden, when they find him dead in his barracks room, he's an E1. What they did to the whistleblower, to witnesses, it is so criminal. And Sean Bernabe needs to pay. And there's others. But we had personal meetings with that traitor. With that traitor. I don't know what the cause of death was. I don't know. All I know is that they did not protect him. And it is on record that he was getting bullied. If you read the Medium article that I've posted, it is clearly documented in that article that Glennon Oakley Jr. was being bullied. And in Richard's case, we have that. We have that. Clearly, he was being the same way by these same attack dogs. Bullied, intimidated. I mean, they are ruthless. They're not humane. And it told us something because we're like, wait a minute. We have a son that is disappeared and dead. And they are doing this to us. And we're asking for protection. We're asking for them to help make it stop. And they're not. They're contributing. Then we caught our CAO, our casualty affairs officer, engaging in this kind of attack dog asymmetric warfare tactic against us. Our own casualty affairs officer, the first one we had. Lyons, Joshua Lyons. I mean, they went to, don't forget this, they went to the guard mount and the MPs to tell the MPs the most outlandish smears of Richard from the guard mount so that the MP would harass us. And they were lies. And we asked him, where the heck did you hear that from? The guard mount. Well, who runs that guard mount? CID, who was ran by what? The Leilani Hart. Leilani Hart was bragging that she ran the CID on Fort Bliss. That's why we have the FBI number for her confession, the CID number for her confession, because she was just bragging, see, I have power. And she was giving it to people. The most disgusting confessions about her own family, she was publicly telling people. And sharing the FBI number that she got because people don't get FBI case numbers. Yeah, the cause of death is unknown. Well, we know that he was harassed. We know that they didn't protect him. We know that he was a witness to shots fired and a group of individuals that look like security guards with M4s in their hand. M4s, a group. So thank you, Olga. I'm just, watching the circus today. Right before I came on. It's, it gets, you just get, you're not allowed to be emotional in this. You have to stay very calm, and that's really hard. It's really hard because of everything that they've done. But just pray. And if you're Roman Catholic, make sure that your cardinal knows how you want them to vote. Because, a pope can be in there for years and years and years. And the cardinal votes um, is supposed to vote for you, representing you. So, I mean, really representing God, right? Doing what God wants. That's how they should vote. So you have a voice though, and I think this is really important. And I think it's going to, of course, it's going to shake up El Paso. A It's a huge Roman Catholic population there, and into Mexico. And we could really, really use a good pope, a good spiritual leader, a good moral leader, a good family leader, a leader that knows justice and peace and restitution and um, the rule of law. Yeah. So I'm really praying for that. And it's been really, all in all, I tell myself, Pat, this is a very good thing that this case closed today. You need to be celebrating, but it's so hard to watch that circus. And so maybe tomorrow, well, or later today, but uh, it was a very good thing because now they don't have their open checkbook. They don't have their positions of power. Um, and it's a very good thing. Their lies have now, they just, what are they going to do? It's kind of like Jaime Esparza. He doesn't have a position anymore. And so it's a really good thing for the people of El Paso. And yeah, so we really should be happy about it. Now we can really focus on Richard's case, because, of course, the Attorney General can absolutely look at this Walmart mass shooting again. Okay, they can absolutely do that. But Sam Medrano can't, and Joe Spencer can't. Um, so that's a good thing. And, more and more answers for Richard's case and where Richard is and what happened to his remains, um, and getting accountability and restitution is very important. It's so important for our military. And it's no joy for us because it's going to take, it's the work is incredible. And the mental, um, I'm just in awe of God to keep us this together for so long. It's just amazing. And yeah, so, uh, but we need our military, we need our communities strong. And they just cannot do this to whistleblowers. They cannot do this to witnesses. They just, our military, they cannot breach our military. We cannot put stars. Sean Bernabe got a star from the Senate Arms Committee. They need to be held accountable for that because they absolutely knew. We've been crying about this, legally in all of our, I can't tell you how many letters, and every letter we send, and that's not including our emails, every letter we send certified. Every letter. And I can't tell you how many letters we've written. So, you know, It's there's a new sheriff in town. We have absolute confirmation. We know the floodgates have opened up of accountability, and we're waiting. We're waiting. And not just waiting silently, not doing anything. We are continuing to identify the crime, document the crime, and file the crime. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So that's our faith that it's going to happen. If you seek, you shall find, right? So thank you so much. And I'm sorry I'm a little bit like full of vim and vigor tonight, but have a great night's sleep. And I will be